We are cruising along the Monongahela River here in Morgantown, West Virginia. Cruising down by the waterfront with the Westover Bridge directly ahead of us, which gives me an idea. I don't know why I haven't tried this before, but let's see what happens. And we've made it under the Westover Bridge twice as we continue our journey down the Mon River, with downtown to our right and Westover to our left. Today we'll be cutting up 8th Street in search of our target, Mountaineer Field, home of the West Virginia Mountaineers, who are taking on Kansas today. And unfortunately, as we will soon see up directly ahead, Milan Pushkar Stadium did not get the most friendly rendering here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and neither did the College of Law as we pass over it. So here we have the Caperton practice facility directly ahead of us. And Mountaineer Field is somewhere in that sarcophagus to our left. And there it is. We got the logo, we got the end zones. So now we got to find a way in. As we pass by the hospitals, which, as I've said, nothing in Morgantown looks quite right. The roads and the topography, excellent. Excellent job. But the buildings themselves, and even Mountaineer Field's got a little bit of a slant in there. So this one's going to be even more challenging than I thought. So we're going to do one more little circle here. And then we're just going to cut our engines and dive right in, because that's about all you can do. For a nice soft touchdown. And we gotta slam on the brakes so we don't run into the north end zone. Here in what should be Milan Pushkar Stadium, but all we have is Mountaineer Field, and that's fine. We are over the plains of West Texas, entering into Lubbock over a nicely rendered train yard. And it looks like the city of Lubbock itself also has a custom render, so that's better off than Dallas, which was nothing but generic game buildings. So whoever's doing work in open maps on Lubbock, Texas, I have to say you all did an excellent job. And yeah, we got some advertising on the buildings. We got a really unique church right over there. Looks like a grain silo and a Wells Fargo building. All right. It's always nice to fly into an area and see that it has some Microsoft Flight Simulator love. Some places you go and they're all just generic game file buildings. All the roads are right, but. So, downtown Lubbock got a nice rendering. So let's see what's happening over here on the campus of Texas Tech. And our target today is Jones AT&T Stadium, home of the Red Raiders. And yeah, we can see it in the distance over there to our right. So what I think we're going to do for Texas Tech University is we're just going to come over here. We're going to gain a little bit of airspeed on our descent, and we're just going to hang right here. And I think we're just going to cut our engine. And we're just going to glide on in over to the campus of Texas Tech University. And we can see Jones AT&T Stadium directly ahead. And we will just come on down nice and casually and check out what looks to be a very nice quad. And we'll cruise on in here over the sports performance facility and the football practice field. And hopefully we have judged this accurately enough to continue gliding and gliding and gliding right in to Jones AT&T Stadium here in Lubbock, Texas. Which I have to say is one of the nicest renderings we've seen here in Microsoft Flight Simulator Pro, College, or otherwise. We are flying along the Colorado River here in Austin, Texas. Texas's state capital. We're checking out the rendering, which is way better than Dallas. Looks like we have custom open maps data and some actual buildings in the city of Austin, unlike Dallas, which just had game file buildings, which is pretty cool. It's always more fun to swoop through the open maps renderings than of just random game files. So since we're in the Texas state capitol, let's pass over the state capitol building. As we leave downtown behind us. And approach the campus, the University of Texas at Austin, which has our next target, Darrell K. Royal Stadium, which we can see our first glimpse of to the right. But first, we'll take a swing around University of Texas's tower. As we give the campus of Texas at Austin a nice look. As we set our sights on Darrell K. Royal Stadium, Texas Memorial. And it's amazing as large as this stadium is. It does have a fairly open end zone, which we are going to use to the fullest advantage. As we say farewell to the city on our final approach. Our goal is just to tuck it in right here. In this end of the stadium, and we need a little bit more engine power to do that, but now we're in. To some pretty tall grass here at Darrell K. Royal Stadium in Austin, Texas. Where's Bevo? Bevo, you got some work to do, man. We need some lawn care out here immediately. So, other than the ridiculously high grass, which we also saw in places like Baltimore, it's an okay stadium rendering. We do have some shrubs and grass growing in the end zone over there, but this press box side could certainly use a little bit of work. But overall, not too bad. We are cruising over Fort Worth, Texas, which after a couple trips through Dallas, thought
would be filled with lots of generic game file buildings, but it looks like all of the open maps data was here in Fort Worth, Texas. Unfortunately, there's no football stadium over there, so we're going to come in this direction and cross over the Fort Worth Zoo on the way to the campus of the Texas Christian University, home of the Horned Frogs. And our next target today, Amon Carter Stadium, which I believe we can actually see there in the distance. So that's fully rendered. That's good to know. And we have a beautiful campus here at TCU. Let's see how much of that is in the game. And it looks like it has fully rendered as well. So whoever did the open maps data here in Fort Worth, bravo. Very good job. So I think what we're going to do is just make a turn over here and cut the engines. And just glide right through the heart of campus here at TCU, home of the Horned Frogs, right into an extremely well-rendered Amon Carter Stadium. Oh my gosh, look at that. And of course, the beautiful campus of TCU below us too. As we float on in here through the sports complex. And into Amon Carter Stadium for a nice smooth landing. Ooh, it's a little bumpy here. Maybe they just resodded the field. Well, we've made it for a nice smooth landing. And wow, yeah, this is an extremely high quality rendering here at Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, home of the TCU Horned Frogs. And definitely one of the best renderings we've seen in the Big 12, NFL, MLB, anywhere we've been so far. All right, here we are entering Stillwater, Oklahoma, home of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who face off against the West Virginia Mountaineers this Saturday at 3:30 to open the Big 12 season. And we're entering downtown Stillwater. We can see Oklahoma State over there to the left. Downtown Stillwater directly below. And I'm seeing Oklahoma State over there. I'm not seeing the stadium. I think I see the field. We may have another flat stadium situation. But that's fine. Let's go check it out. There's downtown Stillwater behind us. And we're going to hang her right here toward Oklahoma State, see what we can see. And yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like we have a flat stadium, but the field is there. So that means we can most certainly land on it. And here, yeah, there's the baseball stadium and the practice facility. It's funny, it has the shadows of the stadium, but it didn't actually render the stadium itself. Start to get down. And here we are, where Boone PIckens Stadium should be, but at least we do have a little bit of the field here. And so what I think we need to do is park it right here on the 50-yard line. We are over the train tracks that cut through the heart of Norman, Oklahoma.
As we pass through the city on the way to our target, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. I think they just got a very generous donation, and it is now Gaylord Family Stadium, home of the Oklahoma Sooners of the Big 12 Conference. So we'll say goodbye to downtown Norman on our way to the campus of Oklahoma as we pass over the North Oval and the library and on to the South Oval. Our target to our left, along with the practice facility. So we will swoop up here past the dorms. And the forum. And start to make our approach. We have a nice open corner of the stadium here for us to sneak right into. So we will take full advantage of that. As we just bring it in here for a nice smooth landing here at Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Gaylord Family Stadium, whatever y'all are calling it these days. This is a very nice stadium here in Norman, Oklahoma. And they got a pretty good rendering, I must say. That new side over there looks pretty nice. It's a little wavy in the stands here, but overall, it's pretty clean. We are cruising down the Brazos River on the way into Waco, Texas, in search of our next target, McLain Stadium, home of the Baylor Bears. So let's just make a quick left and take a tour of the campus of Baylor University as we pass over the parking lots on the way to the baseball and softball fields. And looks like we're just pulling from generic game files here. Those do look pretty neat. So all the buildings are where the buildings would be, but not exactly what they would look like we find in many places. How Texas Tech and TCU got nice custom renderings, I'll never know. I need to figure that out. Definitely do have some unique looking buildings here on the campus of Baylor. And we get our first glimpse of McLain Stadium off in the distance, and it looks like it's suffering from flat stadiumitis like we've seen in many of other stadiums in our trek across the country, our quest to land in the mall. So let's go back over the Brazos River. And say farewell to Waco behind us. And just cut the engines and come on in for a nice smooth landing here at McLain Stadium in Waco, Texas, home of the Baylor Bears, which unfortunately is flat. We are cruising through Lawrence, Kansas, in search of our next target, Memorial Stadium, home of the Jayhawks. But first, we have a very nicely rendered high school stadium right here. It's home to the Lawrence Lions. It's a very nice rendering. So let's head on over to the main campus of the University of Kansas, which is right here, situated on the hill here in Lawrence. So right after we pass over the baseball stadium here, we should see Allen Fieldhouse.
which I suppose we do in general game form. We don't have any custom data being pulled from the open maps for Lawrence. So we just have generic game file buildings here on the picturesque campus of Kansas. And once we crest the top of the hill, we should see our target, Memorial Stadium. I think we might just cut our engines and cruise on in as we say goodbye to the campus. And get our first glimpse of the stadium, which unfortunately seems to have a bit of a case of flat stadiumitis, which we have seen in several other venues across the country. But that's okay. That means we can just cruise on in for a nice casual landing here at Memorial Stadium. Here in Lawrence, home of the Jayhawks. And while the stadium might be flat, the field is in fairly high definition. The Jayhawk is here proud on the 50-yard line. I'm not sure if there are that many skyscrapers in Lawrence, Kansas, but I've never been there, so now I think that there are. We are flying down the railroad tracks into Ames, Iowa, in search of our next target, Jack Trice Stadium, home of the Iowa State Cyclones. And as we cruise through downtown Ames, it looks like we just have some generic game file buildings like we saw in Morgantown, and then even in larger cities like Dallas and Charlotte. I'm still trying to figure out who gets custom renderings and who doesn't. So, you know, we have all the buildings are where they're supposed to be. They're just not what they're supposed to look like. As we head on over to the campus of Iowa State, down the railroad tracks, we will say goodbye to the downtown Ames, Iowa area. And we'll cross over Squawk Creek to a windmill. Ooh. I am easily amused, and windmills are something that amuses me. You can see a few, and you walk up the hill from my house here in Morgantown, and up on the ridge, they always make me happy. So let's cruise on through the blades of this electricity generating device. On over into the campus of Iowa State University, which, you know, like West Virginia, looks like it's just kind of generic game file buildings. And I don't know why Lubbock, Texas got so much love. Stadium, campus, and all. Everything was perfectly rendered. So as we cruise on through Iowa State, we can see the parking lots between the Hilton Coliseum, which looks kind of like an office building, and Jack Trice Stadium ahead of us. Let's take one more look at the campus of Iowa State behind us and see what's in store for us over here at Jack Trice Stadium, because it looks like we do have a stadium that's kind of surrounded by office buildings, but oh well, that's fine. We can work with that. That's better off than what we ended up in Morgantown, and even sometimes what we find in NFL stadiums. I would certainly take this. Definitely looks like the press box is an office building, and just about everywhere else. So let's just cut our engines and cruise on in here to Jack Trice Stadium here in Ames, Iowa, home of the Cyclones, for a nice soft touchdown. And yeah, I mean, if you're not going to have a custom rendering, I'd rather have something like this. The stands aren't really there. They're kind of the hillside, and you have some buildings around, but yeah, it's better than Mountaineer Field, so I would take it. We are flying over Wildcat Creek with the Kansas and the Big Blue Rivers in the distance as we enter Manhattan, Kansas. And while I've never had the pleasure of visiting the Little Apple, my brother did live there while he was deployed at Fort Riley as a member of the Big Red One. And he assures me that Manhattan, Kansas does not have this many skyscrapers. It doesn't have any skyscrapers, in fact. So I'm very curious as to how Microsoft Flight Simulator got this particular rendering of the Little Apple. But we'll investigate that more later. Today, our target is Snyder Family Stadium on the campus of Kansas State University, the home of the Wildcats. This is our final Big 12 stadium where we can cross the entire conference off the list as we head into the campus of Kansas State, which is a very beautiful little campus. I don't think we're getting any open maps renderings. I think we just have generic game files, but it is still very picturesque. We have the track over there to our left. And we should have Snyder Family Stadium starting to appear in the distance, and I think that we do. So it looks like it's there, at least in some form, over by that pair of parking lots over there. And it looks like we have a partial rendering, which, I mean, it's better than no rendering at all. It's better than Mountaineer Field. That's for sure. So, all right, we have a partial rendering of Snyder Family Stadium, and we do have a somewhat uneven field, but I think that means that we can attempt a landing. So let's just bring our airspeed down, and we're gonna very slowly just kind of sneak into this corner of the end zone over here. And hopefully this uneven field doesn't give us too much problems as we go ahead and cut the engine and cruise on in. Whoa, and bounce a bit on the uneven field here at Snyder Family Stadium, home of the Kansas State Wildcats. I like to call them Purple Kansas. Here in Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple, which in Microsoft Flight Simulator seems much more like a Big Apple. We're going to investigate that a little bit more later. We have landed in every Big 12 stadium. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. What's next? I don't know. Maybe the Big 10. There's only, should be less schools in the Big 10 than in the Big 12, right? So nice and easy. Thank you for watching.